I was talking to an executive at a bank, and she said to me something really interesting, which was, we're thinking about building out levels, not because we think the chief of staff has various levels, but because AI is starting to undermine the entry level roles that typically prepare you to be a chief of staff. So you and I are quite clear on this, which is we do not believe that an executive admin is necessarily the first role in an evolution towards chief of staff because the roles are profoundly different. They are both strategic, but they are profoundly different and require very different skill sets. And we both know this because we are both terrible at scheduling. And nobody should put me in charge of anyone's calendar that actually matters at all for any period of time. But I did start out my career as an executive admin because that's where you observe and learn everything about people, dynamics, understanding who they are, what they're motivated by, all of the things that you need in order to learn how to read a room, which is essential for good chief of staff work. And I'm concerned that AI is undermining a lot of these entry-level roles, on top of which you have COVID, where you have all of these return to office, don't return to office, fully remote. And look, as somebody who has a young child and also had to take care of her parent and a bunch of other things, I fully appreciate the importance of flexible workplaces and not necessarily returning to office. However, you do miss something when you are not in a room with a bunch of other people and you're sitting on Zoom. It's a very different, it's not insurmountable, but it is very, very different to be a chief of staff now than it was in 2018 or 2017. And I think we need to evaluate, how do we get people who are not only wired because they've taken our chief of staff readiness assessment, but also how do we build people's ability to challenge authority constructively and to read a room correctly and to understand how people interact with one another and what are the signs that there's possible friction, whether it's good or bad. We can have a conversation about that. But I think we really are starting to miss a key part of sort of the training ground for chiefs of staff. And so I wonder to what extent levels will emerge going forward because of AI and because of this return to office or this, flexible workplace stuff.